These are excerpts from Studying Media as Media, McLuhan and the Media Ecology Approach by Lance Strate. He's a professor of media at Fordham University, and he's one of my friends. Media ecology is the study of media as media, which follows from Marshall McLuhan's famous maxim, the medium is the message. The medium is the message is McLuhan's wake-up call to individuals who tend to ignore the medium and only pay attention to the content. In effect, McLuhan was trying to say, it's the medium, stupid. McLuhan's goal was the liberation of the human mind and spirit from its subjugation to symbol systems, media, and technologies. This can only begin with a call to pay attention to the medium, because it is the medium that has the greatest impact on human affairs, not the specific messages we send or receive. It is the symbolic form that is most significant, not the content. It is the technology that matters the most, its nature and its structure, and not our intentions. It is the materials that we work with and the methods we use to work with them that have the most to do with the final outcome of our labors. And so just to sum up briefly, this idea that the medium is the message is that how the medium affects our five senses is the most salient or significant or important aspect of communication. He would say it's not the content, right? So for McLuhan, it's really different if we hear a symphony on the radio versus we see the symphony on the television versus we experience the symphony at a live event, right? I mean, really, the content is the same. The symphony's playing whatever music they're playing, but in all three of those various mediums of experience, we uh, we enjoy something radically different. Lance Straight continues. He says, the medium is the message because content cannot exist without a medium. Words can take the form of speech or writing, for example, or they can exist as internalized speech within the mind, the product of nerve impulses in the brain. But there must be some physical basis for them in matter or energy, and the different forms that they take determine what their meaning and impact will be. The words we think to ourselves seem different when we utter them out loud. The words we write down take on a permanence, distance, and impersonal quality in comparison to speech. So, again, I mean, words are words, but how they're communicated is what matters, not the content of the words, right? I mean, think of a breakup, you can break up by text, you can break up by email, or you can break up face to face, and those are all very different kinds. You can break up by phone, right? Along the same lines, information does not exist in a vacuum. It can be found riding radio waves or the electric current running through wires or stored in magnetic or optical form. Or information can be found in the sequence of chemicals that make up strands of DNA and RNA. The code and the mode of information that is used will determine who has access to the data and who controls its dissemination, how much information will be distributed, how fast it will be distributed, how far it will travel, how long the information will be available, and the form in which it will be displayed. As these variables change, so does the message that is being communicated, right? The medium is the message for McLuhan. Artists have long understood that the medium is the message, that the same subject will yield an entirely different effect if the image is rendered in oil paint or watercolors or sketched in charcoal. Sculptors likewise know that the decision whether to chisel a bust out of stone, carve it from wood, or mold it in clay will have a major impact on the end product. And musicians will tell you that the same melody when played on violin, trumpet, and xylophone will give you three different pieces of music, right? These are really nice examples of how the medium is the message, that the medium itself is the most salient or significant aspect and not the content. That's what McLuhan is getting at. McLuhan also argued that the medium is the message because the content of a medium is in a certain way another medium. For example, the medium of speech becomes the content of writing. The medium of writing becomes the content of print. The medium of print becomes the content of hypertext. And so you could see, like, media swallow up other media. I mean, look at your cell phone and you can just think of how many weird media are there. Like, the phone is the least of it, It's a clock, it's an alarm clock, it's a camera, it's a compass, it's a global positioning system, it's a text, it's blah, 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 and then with the internet, like all other, you could see like the TV and the radio are just sort of subsets in a way of electric technology. McLuhan explained that another reason why the medium is the message is because the user is the content. What he meant was that audiences and readers must interpret the messages that they receive, process the sensory data that they take in, make meaning out of their environments, the artifacts that exist in them, and the events that occur within them. And so this idea, right, that the user is the content means that the medium itself transforms the user, right? In every change of medium, we have a change in the individual, particularly via the sensorium, how the medium affects our five senses, whether it's the ear, whether it's the eye, whether it's one very strongly or a combination of all the senses. You could think, like, I mean, there are certain media which profoundly affect all the senses. So take for example, like smoking a cigarette, which is not the healthiest thing you want to do. Nonetheless, it's touch, it's taste, it's smell. And, one of the things about cigarette smokers is they love to talk. And so that's why it becomes this feverish addiction. Lance Strate continues. He says, the human body is our primary medium, which is why Lewis Mumford argued that the first machines were made of flesh and blood and appear early in antiquity. Mumford called them invisible machines because they were based on the coordination of human labor for engineering, architectural, or military purposes, and that would have been animals, of course, as well as human slaves. The building of the pyramids, of temples and palaces, of irrigation ditches and canals, as well as the building of empires, all were accomplished by invisible machines. Such complex coordination only became possible after the introduction of writing as a medium of organizational communication. Eventually, the fallible human parts of early machine technology would be replaced with the more reliable inorganic components we associate with modern machines. But the important point is that today, as in the past, human techniques and procedures, human organizations and institutions are technologies comparable to tools, machines, and computers. But today, unlike the past, we are overwhelmed by our technologies and uncertain about what will emerge out of our electronic media environment. McLuhan found inspiration in Edgar Allan Poe's short story, A Descent into the Maelstrom, in which a shipwrecked sailor is trapped within a whirlpool but escapes death by finding the pattern hidden within the vortex. The maelstrom, right, this sort of giant gyrating whirlpool that sucks everything down and kills everything, right? The maelstrom is our media environment, and the only way out is through synthesis or pattern recognition. We cannot get out through linear logic and cause and effect thinking alone. We need to work dialectically or oppositionally and ecologically, riding through complex systems on the edge of chaos.